What's good, Michael here today with another video. Before we begin, go subscribe. Otherwise, you're gonna get choked to death like the Falcons did 2 days ago. You understand me? Okay, listen. Where do I begin? Let's talk about the onside kick, okay? Because I have lots of bullshit to say. I have lots of shit to say. I got a lot of shit to say on my mind about the Falcons because I wasn't gonna record this 5 days until I heard from the owner. All the owner said, I'm going to fire the special teams coach. I'm going to fire Dan Quinn. That's all he had to do. But he says, I just want to know, did they practice doing onside kicks, or are the players that the four players that stared at the ball are dumb? Did they practice or were they dumb? They even called the timeout. So it's either a coach's or it's the coaches or players' fault. Did the players do that on purpose so Dan Quinn could get fired? Did the special teams coordinators have a problem with Quinn or something? Did they say just stare at the ball and let Dallas recover it? Because here's the thing about Atlanta. Atlanta has a very talented offense. They looked good. They until they died in the fourth quarter. The offense looked good. They're statistically one of the best offenses in the league. Their defense is not that good. Their defense statistically, every time they're on the field, the other opponent scores a touchdown. Even a commentator said, even watching Younghoe Koo kick onside kicks and having the Falcons recover it makes it seem that they should do it every time so the team doesn't get another chance. So, I heard Dan Quinn isn't giving up play calling duties. Are we sure they're going to beat Chicago next week? At home. Are we sure? Are we sure? They're 2-0. I mean, they're 0 and the Falcons are 0-2. They literally lost to Seattle and they blew a lead to Dak. They got annihilated by Russell Wilson. They got annihilated. They were balling against Cowboys. They were balling against the Cowboys and they pretty much choked themselves to death. They are literally allergic to 3 possession scores. Are they just doing this on purpose so they can get Quinn fired? Or they're just doing this because, I don't know, man. Either way, man, this team started off poorly last year. I thought Matt Ryan was going to have a good year after his 2018 because I said his 2018 was better than his MVP season, and he didn't end up in the playoffs. That was the last hope I ever had for Matt Ryan. 2018, he started off 1-7. He should have been 0-8. He was an Aguilar dropped from being 0-8. He should have lost 8 games to start off the season. They're dead. They're a dead Falcons. The Bears' offensive line is better than theirs, obviously. They don't use their running backs. They didn't even use Todd Gurley against the Cowboys. Outside Julio Jones, literally Julio and Calvin Ridley carry this offense. And Matt Ryan hasn't been good since his MVP season. And Matt Ryan hasn't been himself since he blew that Super Bowl lead. The only thing Matt Ryan was good for past the decade is Matt Ryan has had back-to-back seasons in the playoffs. Even though Matt Ryan keeps falling on his face, he's still my top 10 quarterback. I'm not taking him out of my top 10 because he's looking terrible, but I'm keeping him in my top 10 because I'm doing it for a reason. I might take Deshaun Watson out of my top 10 because he's looking terrible right now. I might take him out and replace him with Dak Prescott or Lamar Jackson. I might replace him with Lamar Jackson if he wins a playoff game. But if Deshaun Watson doesn't make the playoffs, I'm gonna have to replace him with Dak. That's all that I most likely will. I'm already prepared to take the criticism for choosing Dak Prescott over Deshaun Watson. But I'll get to that later in a different video. But you kind of already know the situation that I have with Watson. But for my whole thing with the Falcons is, do you really want Dan Quinn as your coach after this performance? Do you really want Dan Quinn as your head coach right after this game? Do you really? Because all I want to know is, was the team prepared for onside kicks? If I was a coach, I want to make sure my team is prepared for anything. I want to make sure my team is ready for kickoffs. I'm making sure my punter gets ready because I'm rarely going to use my punter, except if it's like a 4th and 22, then I'll use my punter. If it's 4th and 1, go for it. If it's 4th and inches, go for it. That's fine. Going for it on 4th down is easy. But if you're a head coach, you prepare these players. You say, we're going to practice recovering onside kicks. We're going to do a little bit of a game to see who recovers the onside kicks, and the losers will have to do push-ups. Or they will have to do suicide runs. I'm not sure if you know what that is. That means you go in the front and then you go back and then you go. I'm not sure if you know what suicide runs are. We did that in gym class. Whenever you lose, the winners get to watch the losers go down the field and do suicide runs or do push-ups. I was always on the loser team, but I kind of rebounded I used to be balling. I used to be doing this. You gotta motivate these players. Like, it's you telling me your players weren't prepared? And this is on the players. Why don't you just dive on the ball? Like, the rule says the ball has to go 10 yards for the kicking team to recover, not the receiver team. Like, did you prepare for this, or your players are just mentally retarded? Because either way, this is bad coaching at this point. You keep this up, and nobody's gonna go to Miles Bank Arena, even if it opens up. It could open up tomorrow, and nobody would show up because they're not in for disappointment. The only ones that would show up to next Sunday are Bears fans. That's all I'm going to say. But anyway, that's it. That's all for today's video. Subscribe if you're rocking it. Always. My name is Michael, and I approve this message.